Hi everyone, thanks for joining in today. I'm excited to have Wendy James joining me. Thanks, Wendy.
Hi, it's great to be here. Very exciting.
So, Wendy is Australia's Queen of the Domestic Thriller. She is the author of 9 novels, including Accusation, The Golden Child, shortlisted for the 2017 Ned Kelly Award, and the best-selling The Mistake. Her debut novel, Out of the Silence, won the 2006 Ned Kelly Award for First Crime Novel and was shortlisted for the Nita Mae Dobie Award for Women's Writing. Wendy has a PhD from the University of New England and she works as an editor, teacher and researcher. She spent much of her childhood between the outback and the coast, but currently lives closer to the beach than the bush in Newcastle, New South Wales. She writes some of the sharpest, most topical domestic noir in the country, and her latest book is The Little Bird. Hopefully you can see my copy there. Okay, it's not disappearing too much in the background. And I just want to say as well that thanks to New South Publishing, if anyone watching asks a question of Wendy during the Facebook Live, they'll have a chance to win a copy of Little Bird. So thanks so much again, Wendy. Just wondering if you want to start off by telling us a little bit about A Little Bird.
Yeah, okay. It's a nice cover, isn't it? just putting
it
that
is
there.
Very nice.
It's about a young woman in her early 30s, Jo, who moves back to the place she grew up, that she left in a hurry as a teenager, as soon as she'd finished school. A place called Arthurville, which is sort of outback New South Wales, somewhere between Orange and Dubbo. I've imagined a place based on a place that I did actually live. And she's gone back out there to work on a newspaper, and she's very reluctant. She's moved in with her father who's not well. The job is kind of not the kind of writing she really wanted to do, but she discovers a whole lot of stuff once she actually gets there. Stuff about her past, which is a difficult past, the truth about the disappearance of her mother, and also, finds out that the town isn't quite the place she'd always thought it was.
And could you share with people watching, what was the first idea you had for A Little Bird?
Yeah, well, it's weird. The very first idea came from a real case a long, long way from where it ended up being, and in a different time, about a mum who disappeared with her baby, because that's what happens in this book as well. Drove off in a ute one day, and the older daughter never saw her again. This happened in St Kilda in the late 60s, early 70s, or something like that, and that always just stuck in my mind. And the woman herself, who's there were rumours of what happened to her. A body was never found. There was nothing conclusive, but she's always wondered whatever happened to her mother and her baby sister. And so that's where that began. But it moved in really interesting directions.
Yeah. And is that something that that story you've been aware of for a long time in your life?
Yeah,
or did you?
I've had that story in the back of my mind maybe for 5-10 years.
Yeah.
It turned into something quite different once I started writing it.
Yeah. And you've written a few books already. Could you tell us, is writing something you always had done, and had you always thought you wanted to be an author?
Well, I think I went through a childhood phase of really wanting to act, and so I threw myself into that. But in the meantime, I just read. I mean, I was like a reading machine, I think, as a child. I didn't have I had siblings who were much younger than me, and for whatever reason, I just spent my childhood with my nose in a book. And I love books probably more than anything, but I never actually thought I would be clever enough to write a book. And it was only when I was forced into writing a story, because I was doing English at uni, and I chose creative writing, and I was forced into doing it, and I found I could do it, and it was kind of shocking and amazing. I was a bit older at that stage. I'd gone back to uni after having kids, and I found I had a lot to write about.
And how did you get that first book published?
I actually spent something like 10 years writing short stories and getting them published around the traps, back when there were a lot of little journals that published short stories, not for a lot of money, but for a little bit of money, you get $100 or something like that. And that was the short stories I loved. I did actually love writing them, and I think they also served to teach me how to write in a way. So I wrote a lot of short stories, and then I decided to write a novel, and I found a really big story. I didn't really think, it kind of felt like I'd bitten off more than I could chew. It was set in the 19th century. It was about an infanticide, and it was about the suffrage movement. So it was a really huge historical novel. But I did it. It took, 5 years or something like that, maybe more. But in the end, I had a novel, and I sent it off to an agent, and that was published the following year. So I was really lucky.
Yeah.
But there was, and I was lucky, but there was also a good solid, 10, 12 years of writing behind
before
I got to that point.
Yeah.
So it didn't you hear stories where people have been really lucky, and the first thing they've written has been a bestseller, but it was a very long process. I felt lucky.
Yeah.
You always feel lucky. You always feel fortunate.
Yeah.
But looking back, it was a long time between starting to write and having that first
having the first. Yeah. And we've got quite a few people watching, which is great. So just wanted to remind people watching, if you do have a question for Wendy, please type it in comments and I'll read it out, and you'll have a chance to win a copy of A Little Bird, thanks to New South Publishing. Tasman says that she just finished listening to The Accusation and she loved it. And she wonders how you juggled writing about so many topics. She doesn't want to mention them to avoid spoilers, but...
I think I was just, at the time of writing that, I was really interested in the whole sort of celebrity culture, which is sort of what it's about. And I guess, I don't know how you manage it. I'm good at writing one character, stopping that, writing another character, stopping that, writing another character. That's actually how I like to get into the story. So I think it's really helpful if you're writing about a whole lot of different things to take on a few different characters, because every time you're the new character, you can concentrate or focus on that thing that character's about. And so maybe that's a good, that might be the answer.
Yeah. And Belinda says she's a retired librarian and she's familiar with your sister's books. And she wonders if you read each other's work and share ideas.
Yeah, we definitely do. Rebecca's my first and best reader. So the really funny thing about A Little Bird, I was very, very uncertain about it. And I sent it to Rebecca and she sent back a list of things that were wrong with it. She read sort of bits and pieces of it, then she got to read the whole thing, which is a horrible way to read a book, actually, but she's very patient.
Yeah.
And so she read it and she sent back a list of things and they were really good. And I sent it into my editor not long after that. And the editor's list of things that needed to be fixed were virtually identical to Rebecca's.
Oh,
so
really?
I really didn't know what I'd done wrong. But there's nothing like having another writer, but who's also a really good reader, read your stuff. So I'm really fortunate that way. She's an excellent reader and writer.
And Tasman wonders if you have a favourite author and if maybe you might have been reading something lately that you'd like to recommend to us.
Well, my favourite author is, it always seems really funny because it's really not related to crime fiction, although in a way it is, of course, because all writing has, there's connections between all sorts of authors that seem unexpected. But I love Jane Austen. She's who I go back to and read and reread. And for plot, for character, for how she makes you laugh, everything. So that's my favourite. And an author I've really enjoyed lately is an English author called Claire Chambers, and she also doesn't write crime fiction, but she writes about crimes of the heart. So it is. She's very clever in building up tension, and they're very unexpected stories. So her latest story is about it's called Small Pleasures, I think, and I think it was a bit of a bestseller. But and I think she's classified as a romantic novelist. But Small Pleasures is about a woman in the 50s writing a story about a woman who claims to have had a virgin birth. So it's a fabulous story. Sad and clever and funny, and all of Claire Chambers' stuff is like that. It's unexpectedly, it's very moving.
Well, thanks for those recommendations. We always love getting book recommendations.
I really recommend her highly, as well as Jane Austen.
And Sarah wonders if how hard it is to make a full-time living from writing, or do you think that most writers would need to have a second career?
Yeah. I would never go into writing thinking that you won't be doing your job. Your other job. Yeah. I've had a couple of nice years where I haven't had another job. But until recently, it's been 3 or 4 or 5 days work plus writing and plus children.
Yeah,
we're just in this very nice situation. Well, you get there eventually, where our little birds are all basically flown, have all basically gone and moved out. We've got one at home, and so that makes life easier too.
Yeah. And how do you organise, like, having a job and when your children were younger maybe and doing writing? How did you organise your time?
Yeah, I can't remember how I did it. I think you just get very, very ruthless with your time. So you sort of, if you have a day where you've got childcare or the kids are at school and you're not doing something else, you just take those hours, put a sign on your front door saying, no, I'm not here for, do not come, do not knock on the door, and you just write. And sometimes you faff about, even so, I can remember sometimes I'd be sitting there, from 10 o'clock until 10 to 2 going, I can't write anything. And then at 2 o'clock, I'd write, 500 words, and that would be it for the day. So it's a very strange process, but you do have to, if you have limited time, you just have to use that time. And you'll be surprised at how your unconscious or your subconscious works when you're not thinking about it. And sometimes 1 hour is all it takes to write what you needed to write that day.
So compared to like when your children might have been younger and you were working more, did you find when you were under pressure and had less time that you...
I was better. I'm actually finding this quite odd and strange, and I'm signed up for church choirs and little jobs here and there and volunteer work. I think I do need the pressure of having too many things to do, or at least more things to do. It is a really
that's
strange
interesting.
paradox.
I
feel a lot of time with nothing. Nothing productive.
And Sarah wonders how you stay motivated to write if you get stuck in a rut.
Yeah, so that's the question of I guess writer's block, and to be honest, it happens a lot that you do just get stuck, and you just kind of have to go, well, what I've had to do, and I don't know if it doesn't work all the time for everyone, is just go, I just have to write something. And in fact, writing A Little Bird, it was during COVID, and it was a very strange period, and it was just write something, just write anything. And I literally got to the end of the first draft of that book, not even knowing if I had a coherent book, but I did. So I think you just write something, even if it's I don't know, the same sentence over and over.
And what do you find for yourself usually comes first, the plot, characters, or the location? Or is it different every time?
It's not usually the location, I would have to say. But the plot and the characters sort of come at once in one big boom, mostly. So, I'll have... So like this one, I had, the idea of that woman and the mother disappearing. And that becomes a character once your plot thickens. Sometimes I think in The Mistake, I had a much clearer character as well as a plot from straight away. I really wanted to write about somebody who people wouldn't necessarily like or trust, and that was an interesting way to approach a novel. So it does vary. The Golden Child, definitely I wanted to write about children who were bad. That was my object. So my objective. So that's plot and character sort of at once.
And Belinda wonders if when you start writing, do you know how your book's going to end?
Usually. Sometimes. I've had a few occasions. So my third novel, Where Have You Been? I literally didn't know. So it was about an imposter, perhaps imposter or perhaps the real person. And it wasn't until I got to the very end of the novel that I decided whether she was going to be who she said she was or not. And
Yeah.
that was a very strange thing. I remember, but it's probably a good thing for the reader, because I can't give anything away, because I actually didn't know.
You didn't know that, yeah.
Mostly I have a pretty good idea of the ending, and often I'll write the ending sometime in the beginning.
And what have you found so far to be the most difficult part of your writing process?
The sort of in-between period when the new novel hasn't really taken off. So it's an idea, and it's maybe, 10, 15, 20,000 words. And at that point, it's always really easy to think of a different novel you'd rather be writing. So nearly every time I'm in at that point where I've got maybe 30, 40,000 words, I'll go, I hate this, I do not want to write this, and I've just had a genius idea for another novel, and I'll write to my agent and say, look, I've had this great idea, that one's terrible. and then I might write 1,000 words of this other thing and realise, no, it's just going to be as awful. And then I go back to the other one, refreshed, because I'm relieved I don't have to write the other one. So, there is always a really hard patch. I always compare it to labour. I think there's just this point where you think, this is impossible, kill me now.
Yeah. And are you working on something new at the moment?
I'm working on a couple of things, and not I haven't really been in this position before. Not quite sure which one I want to do. I'd like to do them both, but I'm not sure the order of where I'm doing them. So I'm sort of simultaneously researching, writing a bit, and sharpening up synopses and things like that to get an idea of how the story's going to go. Yeah, two at once. So, interesting.
And before we said about the cover of your book, have you got your book there to hold up? Or
I have. I've got a copy. Got a copy here. Yeah, there it is.
So it's a really beautiful cover.
It is, isn't it a fabulous cover? And it really gives a good picture of a particular moment in the book that sort of, is a recurring image and memory of Joe's mum driving off in her little blue Mini. Who knows where. And so I was really excited when they sent me this. It's just perfect. And it's out west, out near Dubbo. It's the right landscape.
And I love the colours. The colours are really good. And
very Australian, isn't it?
Yeah. And Tasman wonders if you had any say in the cover.
No, they just sent it to me and it was perfect. I just they sent me one cover and I loved it. Now my screen's moving. Yeah, no say.
So that was the first one and you loved it straight away.
Sorry?
That was the first one and you loved it straight away.
That's the only one they showed me, but I was perfectly happy with it.
Yeah, you must have been really happy with it.
Yeah.
And Sarah says it draws you in and makes you wonder where you are going or what's going to happen next.
Yeah. No, I think it perfectly sort of encapsulates the mystery, but also it's drought-stricken, it's hot, it's all those things. Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what sort of research you did for A Little Bird.
Well, I lived in that town.
Yeah.
So my research was I went and got a book that had recently come out, a local history that had pictures of, the town through the period I was writing about. So going back to the 70s, 80s, 90s, and it was fun because I saw people I knew and my in-laws, and my father-in-law was there at a Rotary meeting, and just remembering, because it was set at the time when I was about 18. So it's set now, but also there's half of it's set back in the past. So it was around the woman who it's about at that point was my age when I was in the 80s. So it's great reliving all those memories of what we did and where we went, where we partied, all the stuff you did as an 18-year-old in that particular town.
Yeah.
So research was trawling my memory, basically, mostly.
Yeah. And have you got any advice that you would give to a new writer?
Yeah. Expect it to be hard. Be a reader. Be a reader as much as you are a writer. You learn more from other writers than you know. If you're reading good stuff and the genre that you want to write in, the best of that genre, then that's where you'll learn how to write the best you can. And also just, it can be really hard. It can be really a roller coaster, disappointing one day, exciting the next. You just have to gird your loins, I guess. Just expect it to be hard. But expect it also, there's nothing like it. The moment when you finish something and you feel good about it, that is the great moment. So you have to get through the bad bits to the good bits are worth it. Yeah. That sounds terrible, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. And the room you're in now, is that where you do all your writing?
Yeah, so this is our study, but it's currently it's a really large room. So it actually it's got, we bought it, had all these great bookshelves.
I love the bookcase.
But it's also got, over in this side you can't see, surfboards and washing baskets and shoes, and we're getting a bathroom renovation. So it's just there's I've tried to make it look like it's just writing stuff, but it's actually good out. It's a rubbish room.
The bookcase,
I keep going up to my bedroom and
sitting
on my bed because it's tidier.
I'm sure lots of our members would love a bookcase like you have there.
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
Yeah.
You just have to, you need a ladder. When you're short like me, I get my son to get them down.
And when you're writing, do you have a favourite snack or drink?
Oh, everything. It's every 10 minutes I need to get up and check what's in the fridge and hope it's changed and have another cup of tea. And why are there no biscuits? No, there is no favourite. Tea, copious cups of tea.
And Sarah wins is if you find it tricky to think of ideas that are new and not too similar to something you may have read before.
Yeah, I mean, that is always tricky, and sometimes it's tricky when you realise you're kind of writing something, getting up to 10 books. It's sort of, have I written about sisters before? Should I do that again?
Yeah.
Is it similar to this? Or, it really is. And sometimes you have an idea and you really don't know whether it's your idea or maybe you did read it somewhere else. But hopefully your editors and people
so you rely more.
Will let you know fast.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for chatting to me. It's been great talking to you. Just wondering, do you want to share with people watching how they can keep in touch with you?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page. It's a Wendy James author Facebook page. That's probably the best way. I'm on Instagram as well. I think I'm called Not That Wendy James because there's that many Wendy Jameses and I'm not that Wendy James. And that's probably the best way.
Yeah. Well,
and I have a website, wendyjames.com.au, and there's an email address there, or there's a form there if you want to contact me directly.
Get in touch with you,
Happy to hear from people, especially happy readers or unhappy readers.
Well, thanks so much, and thanks to everyone who joined in. People asked some great questions. Thank you.
Thank you. They are great questions. And really thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
Thanks. And look forward to looking out for some more of your books.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.